Today we're tackling the biggest mystery that seems to have emerged from my color theory videos that I've been putting out lately. This is the request that I have gotten non-stop in my comments, and I'm really excited to demonstrate it, and that is filling in hollow color. I know it sounds kind of complicated, but I promise it isn't. I'm going to show you on the computer how to totally automate it. And the best part is it does not have to be perfect for it to work. It's just a really good tool to have in your pocket when you're putting your makeup on. I already did my complexion and it's the same on both sides. This is not a demonstration of like full opacity versus fully translucent. We already did that. I will link that video below. I'm gonna show you what hollowness looks like and how to fix it to your eye with whatever you already have in your collection. If you're new here and you enjoy it, give it a thumbs up. Maybe subscribe while you're here, and let's go ahead and jump in. All right, before I share my screen with y'all, I just want to level with you what we're talking about when I say a hollow color. I use that terminology because I was a hairstylist for 8 years. You have likely experienced it or definitely seen it when you take very, very blonde hair, either a highlight or your whole head or whatever, that has had color chemically removed from it, and you try to dye it back brown or black. What will happen is your hair doesn't like to hold on to certain tones, and if you don't fill the color first, which means make sure that the first thing that that hair sees is some kind of mid-tone of red-orange that exists between the blonde and the brown that you're trying to achieve, those are the colors that are going to be missing, especially after a few washes. It might look okay right when you dye it, but after you've washed it a few times, it will become this very specific green, brown, gray color, and that is the result of losing the reds. As you lift hair from deep dark brown, black to blonde, it goes through a stage of red, red, orange, 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 yellow, light yellow, pale yellow, and then white, you know, if you want to like melt your hair. So all that to say, if you want to go back in the other direction, you have to fill those back in to some degree. It is a little bit simpler when we're talking about makeup, but the visual of a hollow color definitely applies. It basically means that it is a translucent color that is different enough from your skin tone that when you see your skin tone through it, it doesn't look quite right to your eye. Like it's a purple blush that's really see-through and it's a little contrasty against your skin, and it's making your yellow skin underneath maybe turn it kind of a mucky, weird beige that you don't really like. Or in my case, and why I used the Charlotte Tilbury foundation today, the new one that is very translucent, is to show you that sometimes my freckles are what shows through and looks really bananas. Especially if you are someone who likes to wear lower coverage complexion products, this might be really useful and come into play a lot for you, because we tend to want to also apply balmy blushes and balmy color cosmetics, and sometimes they'll either look milky on deep skin or they will look really contrasty and like muddy and overly dark or contrasty on light skin. So I am going to show you both how to bridge the gap from something that's too dark for my skin, and then we are going to show something that is too light for my lips. Yeah, I had like exactly one product in my collection that I could demonstrate that with. Hopefully I can get the point across on my own face. So in this case, like I said, for the sake of simplicity, we are talking about taking a translucent color and filling it with something opaque. That opacity is going to be the thing that bridges your skin with that color, and we are trying to preserve the trueness of the color. We're not trying to change it. Can you change it? Yes. Lots of reasons to layer makeup. You know, that's a whole wide world out there. Today we're talking about basically using opacity to keep a color the same. So it's going to show up truer on your skin than maybe the confusing appearance of when you put it directly on your skin and your skin is fighting it for one reason or another because it's just too high contrast. Okay, so you're getting a preview here of the products that I'm going to be demonstrating with. I think this look is gonna end up kind of bananas because we're working with lavender and coral together. It's more for the sake of demonstration so that you can see it visually at the cost of me maybe looking a little bit like a clown at the end, but it's fine. If you didn't watch my video, video on how to find the best red lip for you. You should definitely watch it after this, but this is a very simple and free photo editing tool called PicMonkey. You don't have to download anything, it's just picmonkey.com. And the photo that I am using is the same one that I used in the lipstick video. It's just me in natural light in maybe like the least flattering way. No one else has to see this photo, but don't try and run it through any photo editing app or anything. It kind of defeats the purpose. And when you do it in natural light, don't do it in direct sunlight. Direct sunlight is lovely and warm and flattering, but it's going to really throw off your coloring in this kind of context. So this circle right here, I already took my little eyedropper and I found my skin tone. And I have the hex code right here for that. Hex code is how the internet talks about color. If you're programming a website or whatever, I mean, there are lots of ways to do it, but hex codes are a really straightforward way to communicate a color and make sure it's exact everywhere. So then I have the white circle right here, and that's going to be our circle that we use for all the different products. Now, when you go and get the product photo off of whatever website in order to put it on your computer, you know, if it doesn't look right to you, then you can kind of adjust it a little bit, like for temperature and stuff, because sometimes brands will use images, or like Sephora will use images where you're like, that is not the color that I have in my hand. But fortunately, we are talking about colors that we already have in our hands in this case. We're not talking about trying to buy something off the internet based on the shade that we're looking at. So you can double check it for yourself. In this case, I found these shades to be pretty accurate. So I am going to start with bronzer, but I think that the best visual demonstration here is to start with the Milk Makeup Jelly Blush. This is not one of my favorite products, and I think that this is a good solve for using it, even though I think it's probably not worth solving, but it's a phenomenal visual demonstration of it. So this is great because it's really high contrast against my skin and it's totally clear, which I think makes a bad makeup product personally. But I'm going to take our circle right here, grab my little eyedropper tool, and I'm gonna go find the most, you know, sincere version of this color, which I think is that bright frickin' red. Now, I'm going to link this website down below. Do not be afraid, it looks like it came from 1994. This is a website called MyerWeb. They have all these cool generators. I used to use it back in the day when I was doing Google ads because it will run a bunch of different sequences that you just can't get Excel to do necessarily, and they make it so easy. So in this case, this is the MyerWeb generator for mixing two hex codes together and finding a range in between them. I told you I wasn't going to make you work. You don't need to know any of the color. All you need to do is eyedropper, your skin, and the product, and plug those into this. And you can even pick how many of the midpoints you want. Like you could do just one, or you could do 10. And it gives you tons of options. So I'm gonna go back over to PicMonkey. I'm going to grab my skin tone, boop. I'm going to plug that into MyerWeb, boop. I think that that was what was already there. And then I am going to go here and I'm going to grab that hex code and we're going to plug that into the other one. Boop. Ooh, see, it changed. And I'm gonna get 10, why not? And what that is showing us is that I can use any of those shades, any of them, to fill the hollowness in that clear color. Okay, so that was what I think is a really helpful demonstration on PicMonkey because it's so high contrast, but let's do something kind of low contrast here with the bronzer. So I'm just gonna grab that little bronzer color, hey girl, hey. And then we will grab that hex code and we will plug her in. And ooh, look at all those beautiful beiges that I could use to fill in the Jones Road bronzer. This is a really helpful demonstration because I think that this product works. It's close enough to my skin tone that it's very beautiful. To be honest, I'm just gonna show you an option, basically, of filling this in with a little bit of beige. So this doesn't have to be because something doesn't work on you. It could just be that you want a little bit more opacity out of it for some other makeup look and you still wanna use it. This is a pretty thick swatch and you can already see it's very translucent. So I'm going to go over to my little color scale and I'm going to pick something off of there out of my collection. In this case, I grabbed the RMS Lip to Cheek in Spell. It is this beautiful beige nude on me. It has just enough pink in it and just enough brown in it. And it is also not super opaque, but it's definitely more opaque than the bronzer. And what it's going to do is it's just going to be kind of halfway in between my skin tone and that bronzer according to our little scale. And and it's going to richen the color and kind of just like make it more present and opaque on the skin while preserving that as our local color. Local color being the color that your eye perceives in this case. And while I apply this, I do want to say there have been just a couple of people in my comments. We're going to start with the lip to cheek over here. And I get it, but I pinned a comment in my video about opacity and saturation because I understand that from a painter's standpoint, it's a lot more complicated than I'm making it. And I truly feel like in a lot of ways, it is overcomplicated, okay? Like I do feel like, you know, going to college for painting, like it was my major. Yes, there are so many ways that we can use oil paint to create reality, but guess what? Our faces are already real. I don't need to be using all of the really fancy terminology to get the point across for people who don't ever intend to become painters. And so the people who do come into my comments as painters and they're like, actually, I'm just like, there are painting channels on the internet, okay? Go use your terminology there. I'm not trying to flex on people by being like, look at all the fancy words I know. So, there, now we have our gel, and look how subtle of a difference that is, but it just increased the opacity and sort of bridged the gap. I'll show you. We will start on this side so that I don't pick up any of that, but here is the Jones Road bronzer. It is absolutely beautiful. If you're new here, this is your first video, side-by-side video of mine that you've watched, I do want to reiterate that I try not to show wrong versus right. I am not the person who is telling you like you've been doing your makeup wrong, or like if you are this, then you have to wear your makeup this way. I'm just trying to give people the tools to know what they're looking at. When they're looking at their makeup and they're like, I wish it was doing a little bit of something else, you know? I just want to be able to like help you put names to those things so that you can be more empowered to make your makeup work for you. That's basically it. All right, so we'll go on top of it on this side. Ooh, as I apply this, I can be pretty aggressive with it because it's not gonna be super high contrast. We built in the middle, essentially. I made the skin where I'm going to put the bronzer a little bit richer. Not darker, just a richer version of my skin tone that's halfway in between that bronzer and my skin. And we end up with something that's really beautiful and opaque. And my freckles kind of show through a little bit gray over here. Not anything that I would be like, oh, I'm not gonna leave the house or whatever. But that is just a little more flattering, a little bit more perfected looking. And it's just one of those things that you don't really know what you're looking at sometimes until you put a name to it, you know? And that's what that is. We have filled what is hollow here with a midtone. So let us continue. I did go back to my little scale and we're going to talk blush next. And I'm going to use this opportunity to show you a loosey-goosey kind of version of that scale on my arm in terms of swatches, because I think that like you can get really cool different effects out of using different opaque versions of a color. Okay, the sweater's coming off. I love Jenny Kane, but this thing is so like watery. When you push the sleeves up, they don't want to stay. Okay, mobility, let's go. I love coral. Coral is my baby. Coral is something that is very heavily represented in my collection. So here we have the blush that we're trying to solve for. I flipping hate this blush because what is that? That is a Kool-Aid stain. I have a whole video planned where I just unload all my feelings about how TikTok is ruining the makeup industry. I digress. Not gonna go off on that today, but that is the Milk Makeup in Spritz, and that is our example of the translucent blush that we're going to be using today, okay? All right, so I have all sorts of shades that are on that scale. I have Joy from Rare Beauty. Ooh, very, very intense. These are not gonna be in order, I don't think. This is the Luminous Silk and, you know, what is it, Soft Peach, I think? This might be the one we end up using. I think that's gonna be one of the most helpful visuals. I have the Charlotte Tilbury Matte Beauty Blush Wand here in, ooh, Peach Pop. Another fantastic one, truly, like kind of in between those, but who's counting? Hindash's Rising color fluid, okay? Like if we wanted to go fully in an orange direction. And then I have Virtue here, Rare Beauty, which is another one of my faves. So that's when you get more into kind of the desaturation. And like anything like that that has the opacity, which means you can't see through it, can be used underneath this to give it more believable presence on your skin. That's what I meant when I said that this doesn't have to be exact. I know I said that I don't want to do things wrong on purpose, but like there's pretty much no way to use this without it being wrong on purpose. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was, but it really does accentuate all the differences in my pigmentation underneath it. Like I said, it's not bad. It just looks kind of weird and pasty. It looks like it's kind of hovering off the skin. That's a good way to know if what you're looking at is hollow. Is it just kind of looks like it's hovering there, you know? It's not bad. I don't think it's bad. It could be a lot better. The other thing that you're seeing in a lot of cases is the fact that this is very red. My freckles are kind of green because they're sort of the same color as my hair and my eyebrows. There's a lot of green in it. Those things are gonna kind of fight each other and you're gonna end up with this weird gray. And that's what you're seeing right now. Plus, I admit, I did use the Charlotte Tilbury on purpose because this is iridescent. Iridescence also is going to give sometimes a little bit of like an unflattering texture to the skin, that Tin Man effect that can also draw the eye to that. And so you're getting so much less of it over here because we filled the color. I just thought it would be a good comparison. I still freaking love that stuff. It wasn't like I'm using this because it's bad. So we are going to start with, like I said, this Armani right here. And we're using very little because ostensibly you wouldn't be doing this with every step in your routine. You know, I'm just doing it again to demonstrate. We're going real heavy on the demonstration, but I'm still gonna go kind of light with the product because we are sort of stacking a lot of things. Taking this Armani and it's going to go in that same little area. Did I put it on my forehead on that side? I don't know if I did. If I didn't, we should. Okay. And we have already like a nice level of opacity there. I don't have any concealer underneath my eye. That's why that's like such a hard line. This brush is from CL. It's really lovely. Did I put it up here? Boop, 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 boop. I am a blush on the forehead kind of girly. All right, and now we're going to use this on this side and you're gonna see more of a true version of that color. Which, to be fair, they say that it's spritz. It's not supposed to be pure red, but like red and it's not my best color, but like, look at the difference there. Look at how this just, it's almost lifted. But the way that you're not seeing as much of my kind of like distracting like freckles and discoloration and stuff under there. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just, again, I want you to know what you're looking at if that does bug you. And just layer that right on top. And if you're new here, hi. I'm Kackie and I'm a blush girl, okay? Like this is not an exaggerated amount of blush for me. I love blush. I will forego eye makeup for blush. So that is what it looks like when I just use the one product. And that's what it looks like when I fill it. Same amount, maybe even less on this side of the blush at least. And the effect is just, well, it's just so much more effective, isn't it? All right, so on my lips, and again, this is gonna start looking kind of bananas, but we're gonna be working with Love Lust in the Luxe Gloss. Don't try and say that 5 times fast, from Tom Ford, okay? I'm not the best person to demonstrate something being lighter than my lips because my lips are so light. This is something that is going to come in much more clutch for somebody who has very pigmented lips. And hopefully my demonstration helps, but also feel free to extrapolate because if your lips are very pigmented, you're going to see a much bigger range between your natural lip color and something like this or anything that's lighter than your lip color that's translucent. Like your scale is going to be a lot more fun than mine, but let's try it anyway. I went ahead and pulled the Love Lust color here, but we're gonna be pulling my lip color instead of my skin color. So I'm pulling the most pigmented part of my lip here for the sake of demonstration. And I'm going to grab that. We're going to put that in here. I already have Love Lust in there and we're going to blend. Whoa! We get this really phenomenal range of these shades where you can kind of decide, obviously, like my lips are not that dark. I just pulled the deepest part of my lip for the sake of, again, demonstration. And so I pulled Alabaster here from Prada. Alabaster is quite an opaque sort of lavender, super pale nude. And it's going to help Love Lust show up more like that color that I'm seeing in the tube versus the kind of milky shade of it mixing with my lip color. There might not be that big of a difference, but again, I'm not the best candidate for this experiment. Hopefully you can understand just from what you're looking at. Hopefully it's helpful nonetheless. Here we go. There's Alabaster. She's so pretty. I love this color. So essentially I'm just, again, building in the difference, but this time we're going lighter. Whoa. So there we have it. I'm gonna blot it a little bit because I don't really want it to like mix. And I do recommend for any of the colors that you're using to fill that they be something that has a little bit more of a matte finish to them. Just because if they don't, then you are gonna end up with a little bit more of color mixing. If that's okay with you, then that's fine. But for the purpose of like layering, and I find it to be more clean in terms of like, you know, the visual effect, especially with a lip color, I want it to layer on top. I don't want it to mix together. So a matte is gonna be better. All right, here it is on this side. Like I said, this is gonna be a weird look because we've got coral cheeks and a lavender lip, but it is what it is. Maybe I'll bring it together on the eyes. All right, and then I'm gonna go over this side. Look at that, that's really cool. So there you end up with something that is mixed with my lip color. And this side, we took my lip color out of the equation. We added kind of a new base tone so that I could get that color to show up. It's almost just like putting on like a white base on your eyes in order to get a light shade to show up more true. It looks more like what's in the tube than that does, ever so slightly. Again, I'm not the best person to demonstrate that part of it, but ooh. That's the hollow side, and it just kind of doesn't read very well visually. And then this side, it's just, you just see everything so much more, so much truer to the color that you saw in the tube, right? So it's like when you get makeup home and it's not doing what you think it's supposed to be doing, or the color is not necessarily like as present as you want it to be. This is such a great way to do it, especially like on deep skin. Things can just disappear. There are so many brands out there that think that the way to solve for color cosmetics on deep skin is to make them translucent. And it's like, no, that's lazy. So if you end up with something like that, you can use this process to make it show up truer on your skin. So, all right, I'm just gonna put on like a little bit of like eyeliner and mascara real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, I did the same thing on both sides. I didn't want to like mix anything up. It's just a little bit of Victoria Beckham Cocoa on my liner, a little bit of my Thrive mascara, and I filled my brows in just a little bit with this Well People pencil that I had lying around. Oh, and I put a little bit of Biscuit on, Westman Atelier on both sides, just for contour. But I know that there are going to be a lot of questions that come out of this. Feel free to ask them below. I never want to stop talking about color theory. I will make as many videos as y'all want about the most niche questions. Just let me know, because I love dreaming up ways to demonstrate these fundamentals, because who knows what's going to hit for some people. The comments that I get from people who are like, I'm 55, I'm 65, I'm 85, and this just clicked for me for the first time in my entire life, like that, if that's my legacy, girl, I have done what I came to do. That is incredible. So I am so grateful for y'all being into this content. But as we close, honestly, I'm quite, I don't know, thrilled, entertained, happy with the effect that we achieved here, right? It's subtle, it is, but you have to admit that side, all the colors look truer. Especially if you're gonna be photographed or something. Ooh, think about like your wedding day. Of course, there is a whole lot to be said for using powder, which we did not demonstrate today. I stayed in the cream territory because powder, talking about translucence and the amount that you're putting on, opacity versus filling a color, ooh, because there's no such thing as a translucent powder, right? You'd be working with two opaque shades, and that's just like bananas. That's just something that we all play with. That's like layering opaque makeup. That's not the same thing to me as using an opaque color to fill a translucent color that's not showing up properly on your skin. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in the powder world. It just means this is a much easier way to think about it, a much easier way to demonstrate it. So let me know what y'all think. if you enjoyed this, I mean, obviously, like I said, I know there are gonna be people in the comments that are like, I like both sides, or I can't tell the difference, or whatever. Like I said, you never know what's gonna hit and what doesn't. And again, I'm not trying to make one bad and one good kind of thing. I just wanted to show how you can use my little scale here to make things look truer on the skin, more present, without just applying more of it, because that often doesn't work. So if y'all did enjoy this, please do give the video a thumbs up. Again, leave me a comment down below anything you want to see in a future color theory video. This series is so much fun for me. If you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe while you're here. I will put a video up here that I think you'll enjoy if you liked this one. And I love y'all, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.